Have you ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? Why the universe sometimes seems so cruel and unfair? Well, you're not alone. For thousands of years, people have been grappling with these questions, and one of the oldest texts to dive deep into this mystery is the book of Job from the Bible. Today, we're zeroing in on one of the most puzzling and thought-provoking verses in this ancient text, Job chapter 2, verse 9. It's where Job's wife tells him, "Curse God and die." What's going on here? Why would she say that? And what can we learn from it today? Stick around because we're about to unravel this enigmatic verse and explore what scholars, theologians, and even you and I can glean from it. Job is a man who's lost almost everything: his wealth, his children, and even his health. Imagine going from being prosperous and healthy to sitting in ashes, covered in painful sores from head to toe. It's in this moment of sheer despair that Job's wife utters these shocking words, "Curse God and die." Now, before we judge her too harshly, let's remember that she's also a victim in this story. She's lost her children and seen her husband's life crumble. Her statement comes from a place of utter despair. C.S. Lewis once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." So what's the megaphone saying here? Some interpreters argue that Job's wife serves as a contrast to his faithfulness. While Job, covered in sores, chooses to accept his fate and continue praising God, his wife suggests a different path. Her reaction underscores the temptation many of us might feel to turn away from faith when life gets hard. But what about the moral and ethical questions this verse raises? Is there dignity in enduring hardship? Or is there a point when it's better to just curse God and die, as she suggests? Rick Warren offers an interesting perspective, saying, "The greatest test of faith is when you don't get what you want, but still you are able to say, 'Thank you, Lord.'" So was Job's wife wrong in her suggestion? Or was she voicing a real, raw emotion that many of us might feel in the face of unbearable suffering? Now that we've set the stage and explored the immediate context of Job chapter 2, verse 9, let's dive into some different interpretations that have been offered over the years. You might be surprised to find that these four little words, "curse God and die," have sparked so much scholarly debate and theological reflection. What makes this verse so powerful, and why has it captured our collective imagination? From serving as a foil to Job's faith to raising ethical questions, let's unpack some of the interpretations that scholars, theologians, and readers like you have pondered. In many ways, Job's wife can be seen as a foil to Job's own faith and response to suffering. While Job, in the midst of devastating losses and health crises, seeks to maintain his integrity and trust in God, his wife offers an alternative route: curse God and bring an end to it all. Her comment, harsh as it may seem, allows us to see Job's faithfulness in sharper focus. It's as if her despair casts a dark backdrop against which the brilliance of Job's unwavering faith shines even more brightly. This contrast is not unlike other biblical narratives where opposites are used to highlight a particular virtue or flaw. Think of the prodigal son versus his obedient older brother in the New Testament, or David's trust in God as compared to Saul's disobedience in the Old Testament. These contrasts serve to enhance our understanding of complex human emotions and choices, making the virtues we aim for all the more vivid. Timothy Keller said it well when he mentioned, "In suffering we find out who we really are." In the case of Job and his wife, their responses to suffering provide us with two very human reactions. One turns toward faith and the other toward despair. The key takeaway here is not necessarily to judge one as right and the other as wrong, but to understand that their contrasting reactions serve as a powerful tool for introspection. It compels us to ask ourselves, how would we respond if we found ourselves in Job's situation? Would we cling to faith as Job did, or would we, like his wife, reach a breaking point and wish for an end to the suffering? This interpretative angle allows us to delve deeper into the complexities of human behavior and faith, enriching our understanding of the intricate web of choices we face when confronted with adversity. In considering Job's wife's controversial statement, it's important to recognize that she too is a victim of the catastrophic events that have unfolded. She's not just a bystander, she's also a mother who has lost her children and a wife who must watch her husband endure unbearable physical and emotional pain. Her words may sound harsh, but they emanate from a place of despair and quite possibly a profound love for her husband. We might initially read her statement as a failure of faith or even an act of blasphemy, but let's try to put ourselves in her shoes. Could it be that her advice to curse God and die was her way of wanting to see an end to her husband's suffering? Carol A. Newsom, a respected biblical scholar, suggests that the woman's words are poignant, born of despair and love. If we view her words through this lens, then her statement takes on a different tone. It becomes an emotional plea, a desperate wish to end the suffering of someone she deeply loves. As Rick Warren aptly said, the greatest test of faith is when you don't get what you want, but still you are able to say, "Thank you, Lord." For Job's wife, this might have been her breaking point, the moment when the weight of their shared losses became too much to bear, compelling her to utter these words not as a curse but as a lament. This perspective brings an emotional complexity to Job chapter 2 verse 9 that we might otherwise overlook. It asks us to empathize with her as a human being who is also navigating unimaginable grief and loss. Rather than viewing her as a foil or antagonist, we come to see her as another dimension of the human experience of suffering. So when we consider the verse from this angle, we're reminded that faith and despair are two sides of the same coin. Each offers a window into how individuals grapple with the biggest questions of human existence, especially when faced with inexplicable suffering. The book of Job is often cited as a major text dealing with the problem of theodicy, the theological and philosophical attempt to reconcile the existence of a benevolent, omnipotent God with the reality of evil and suffering in the world. Throughout the book, Job, his friends, and eventually God himself engage in a complex dialogue that seeks to address why bad things happen to good people. Job's wife's words, "Curse God and die," inject another layer into this intricate discussion. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German theologian who himself faced incredible suffering, said, "The book of Job unsparingly shows the way of the cross as the way of suffering and glory, of suffering and resurrection." This notion suggests that suffering isn't an aberration, but rather an intrinsic part of human life that holds both challenges and potential for transformation. Job's wife's statement can be viewed as a form of questioning the very concept of divine justice. If God is all-powerful and all-loving, how can he allow his faithful servant Job, and by extension Job's wife, to suffer so egregiously? Her cry is a raw, almost taboo articulation of what many people wonder in the depths of their souls when faced with immense suffering. Where is God in all this? Elie Wiesel, the Nobel laureate and Holocaust survivor, adds an intriguing layer to our understanding of theodicy. He said, "Job teaches us that you may oppose God, provided you do it in a dialogue with him." In this sense, Job's wife's outcry could be seen as a form of dialogue, or at least an invitation to dialogue. She challenges the simplistic understanding of a transactional relationship with God, one where faithfulness is automatically rewarded with prosperity and well-being. So while her words may be troubling, they serve an essential role in the book of Job's broader exploration of theodicy. They force us to confront the uncomfortable reality of suffering in a world created by a God who is purportedly both loving and omnipotent. Whether or not we agree with her sentiment, it makes us grapple with questions that have no easy answers, adding depth to the enduring discussion on why a just God allows suffering. When we delve into the complexities of this intriguing verse, it's not just an academic exercise or a theological debate. The lessons we draw from this verse have practical applications for anyone going through trials or suffering. Understanding the various layers of meaning in this brief but loaded statement can provide insights for those wrestling with their own challenges. The contrasting reactions of Job and his wife remind us that faith and despair often exist side by side in times of hardship. You might find it comforting to know that even in the Bible, people struggled with the same emotional and spiritual quandaries that many of us face today. There's a range of human responses to suffering, and this allows for a more empathetic, non-judgmental approach when dealing with our own challenges or when supporting others through theirs. One testimony that comes to mind is that of a woman who battled cancer while trying to raise her young children. She had her job moments, questioning why she had to endure such hardship, but she also had moments of incredible faith, crediting her endurance to a higher power. In the depths of her suffering, she said, "I've come to realize that my pain has a purpose, even if I can't see it now." Corrie ten Boom, a Christian who helped Jews escape the Holocaust and was imprisoned for it, once said, "There is no pit so deep that God's love is not deeper still." Her faith amidst dire circumstances reminds us that even when faced with extreme suffering, some find a way to maintain their faith, drawing on it as a source of strength and hope. However, it's also essential to recognize that not everyone can hold on to faith in the same way, and that's okay. The beauty of the Job story, and specifically the contribution of his wife's voice, is that it validates a range of emotional experiences. Some people might find solace in spiritual practices and a community of faith, while others may question, doubt, or even curse God in their moments of despair. Both are human responses to suffering, and both can serve as starting points for healing and growth. So whether you're enduring a personal trial or supporting someone else through one, the intricate tapestry of emotions and reactions presented in Job chapter 2 verse 9 serves as a rich resource for understanding and introspection. It assures us that our questions, doubts, and even our despair have a place in the larger conversation about suffering and faith. In wrapping up the profound complexities in just 4 words from Job's wife, curse God and die, open up a universe of moral, ethical, and theological questions that are as relevant today as they ever were. We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully, this exploration has offered you some food for thought and a fresh perspective on a verse that continues to challenge and inspire. If you found this discussion enriching, please go ahead and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that delves into the fascinating corners of faith, theology, and the human experience.